Together we'll see who dies and survives, circled around a sacred fire, strumming along with our favorite lyre. Adventure called the quest awaits, your destiny's in the hands of the fates. But never fear, we're all friends here, we'll have your back when danger's near. Come with us through the pages as we unravel a tale for the ages into the Percy-Verse.
Hello and welcome to the Percy-Verse podcast. I'm Alisa.
And I'm Anna. Grab your lava spray gun and watch out for burns, because today we're reading Chapter 7, I Accept Gifts from a Stranger. In this chapter, Annabeth and Percy brainstorm how to get the Golden Fleece to save Grover and the camp. Tantalus approves a quest, but not for Percy, and Percy meets Luke's dad with some unusual sidekicks.
We start this chapter kind of picking up pretty much right where the last one left off, in terms of the previous one ending with Tantalus being like, and now time to punish you, Percy and Annabeth. And we kind of just get straight into what Tantalus determined their punishment would be, which is, it's funny, it's called kitchen patrol, but like they're not patrolling the kitchen, they're doing the tasks, they're cleaning the dishes.
Old-fashioned military term, I think. KP, being on KP.
Oh.
I think it's like in
MASH
White Christmas and
MASH
and some like old-fashioned stuff. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
Yes.
So it's Annabeth, Tyson, and Percy who are all on KP. Duty. Washing the dishes in lava because the harpies.
Fun.
Yeah. That's the way that they kill 99.9% of those
Which
germs.
is kind of cute, because then like Tyson and Ella, oh my god, my brain, right? Ella are like both impervious to fire, I guess.
True.
Isn't that cute?
That's true. That is very cute. The one thing that I want to note about this, that made me both laugh and be confused, is the Clarice's chariot victory meal, like for the camp victory meal, was a full course meal featuring country fried Stymphalian deathbird. And I just want to make a note that in the previous chapter, they disappeared into dust upon meeting arrows. So I just want to know what magic happened.
And were metal.
They kept some alive.
Yeah.
Like, to be able to make them country fried bird.
Yeah, I think there's a little inconsistency there in what happened to the birds. Now, there were, stated many times, millions of them.
Right.
And so we assumed that, like, not all of them, maybe right at the end there, as the other millions were flying away, a net kind of comes up and catches them or something.
Sure, but like, how do you take, like, would it at some point in you go from living to being cooked and consumed?
Right.
How are they preventing the dust? Process.
Okay. Can you eat a monster? That's the question.
That's the question that
needs to be answered. And that's an interesting thing to think about for a theory. Can you eat a monster?
Yeah, because according to this, yes, you can.
Yeah, according to this, you can, even if it's made of metal, and you're not a satyr.
Well, I don't think the whole birds are metal. It's like the beaks. I don't know. That's why I mentioned. But
yeah, they're like little armored birds. Basically.
So that was my one note of just kind of like, I think that was the first time my brain really. Again, reading this so closely.
It's different. Yeah.
It's very different. And I have lots of questions that I never had any other time.
My note on here is, again, Clarice is the main character of this book.
Yes.
Because, and we're following a side character, Percy Jackson.
Who really doesn't want to be a side character.
Desperately. It's a fun premise, actually, to have a book where you're following a side character desperately trying to claw their way back to main character status. Like, that's basically Sea of Monsters. But, Clarice has this chariot victory, and she's getting this full course meal, and we're not seeing this. Like, we can imagine the grandeur of this. We, however, are with Percy, Annabeth, and Tyson in the lava kitchen, scrubbing all the extra plates from said meal, and it's like, the main story is happening outside. That's where the main story is happening. But the advantage of them being all together is that prior to this, Annabeth, we discussed, had been wondering if Percy talking about Grover was like a misdirect, trying to sort of trick her up before the chariot races. And he gets to re-explain it, and she believes him this time. And they really get into a pretty deep, long conversation about the golden fleece, which Annabeth makes Percy guess for some reason. I know. She's like, I'll give you a hint. What do you get when you skin a ram? And Percy's like, messy? And I'm just like, but
I
know. So then Percy knows about the golden fleece, so I'm thinking the golden fleece was on the test, since we've been keeping track.
Yeah.
And
the one, my little one joke I wanted to make about Annabeth was that I felt like this isn't actually the Socratic method, but I was like, Annabeth is in professorial mode, like she is doing the Socratic method to be like, okay, Percy, reach the answer on your own.
I know there might be more info that I'm missing from future books, but I love the idea that one day Annabeth is sort of like Chiron, going into schools and teaching the Latin class. Like, that would be, I could see her doing that, or at least you know, teaching it over in New Rome. But we get a little bit of backstory about Jason, the Golden Fleece. Percy references an old movie, and this is just a lot of Annabeth rolling her eyes a lot. And then talking about the real story. So it's kind of fun because normally we have references to Greek mythology, and then you and I have to Google it, and then we talk about it here. But here, we helpfully have a paragraph explaining the original Greek mythology about Cadmus and Europa. And I'm also assuming that when Europa falls from this off the flying ram and dies, that is what creates the continent of Europe. Is that like the mythology?
Oh, I don't know. Actually,
it reminds me of in Japan, there's, I think, a god figure who drops ink and creates the island of Japan in the water by dropping like ink into the water, which I always think is a really cool just tradition. So it is also a magical flying ram, which I feel like isn't something we think about a lot with the Golden Fleece, because it's obviously no longer flying once it's not attached to a living creature at that point.
Like the magic carpet from Aladdin.
Yeah, right. That would be so cool. Imagine if they, when they get it, they could just fly on it back.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
That would be very convenient. Yeah, so I don't know. I think that would be fun. But the bottom line, and the important thing that we're learning here in terms of applying it to our story, is that the fleece brings prosperity, no plagues, animals don't get sick, it strengthens nature, cleans up pollution. That's why it's like Pan, and all the satyrs are drawn to it. And the idea is that it can cure Talia's tree. And I do appreciate that Annabeth says it's a little too perfect that we could go get this. What if it's a trap? And Percy remembers the year before with Kronos.
Yes. Yeah, because I did really appreciate that as well. I think especially coming off of like Chiron having given his warnings before he had to leave, and like, don't leave, stay safe. And it does feel like Annabeth did really learn from last year in that sense of having kind of in her head now, like, okay, we have to be aware. Yeah. For like, I don't know if she's necessarily in this instance think like, I'd be curious to know if in her brain she is going, maybe this is a Kronos trap, but like, you know, we don't know for sure as the reader, like if she's making that, taking that conclusion from as well. But I did appreciate that her instincts are kind of going like, hey, it's too much of an easy solve for an issue that
for
like,
the problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and Percy's brain goes there. So I imagine Annabeth's is too. And we talked a few times ago about, Kronos is a chess player. And Chiron and Annabeth definitely also, I think, can both play chess in the maneuvering and strategy of everything. And so I do think this is coming from that perspective of trying to imagine what your opponent might be doing. I don't think that... I guess the question I would have here, as I'm thinking about it, is how much... Does Annabeth know the full Great Prophecy at this point, or just pieces of it?
Oh, good question. I don't remember how much she knows. I don't remember off the top of my head. I know that she knows for sure portions of it, if not the entirety, but I can't remember.
I think it would take a lot. I think
it's just a portion.
I think she might just kind of know Percy's involved and maybe something about 16 or something, but I don't even know if she knows it's a child of the big three. That, I don't remember if she's heard the whole prophecy, but I guess my point is, without having heard the full prophecy, I don't think you can think through the strategy of, why would it be bad to heal the tree?
Right.
And I also don't know, even if you did hear the full prophecy, that Annabeth, especially because she was there when Talia, died, right? Mm-hmm. I don't know that she could imagine that Talia could be basically reincarnated.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I completely agree because, going back to all of the powers that she lists that the fleece has and all the things that it can do, it's about preventing sickness or healing sickness,
right?
Strengthening nature. There is no oh, and it could bring someone back from the dead,
right?
Which is essentially, I think actually that would be really interesting to understand more. When Talia's in the tree, where does she exist in? Is her spirit at all in Hades' realm?
Yeah,
or is she in some sort of limbo? And if she is, what is the Greek mythology like?
My guess is it's all in the tree, though. That would be my guess. It's her spirit is in the tree. I don't. It's think...
she becomes a nymph almost in a way who can't leave.
She just can't leave it. Yeah.
And then the fleece gives her back her physical body.
This is making me think. Back in season 1, we did have a whole discussion on Percy being Jesus because all the horses worship him as the son of a god.
Yes.
But Talia's the one who dies to save everyone and then is resurrected.
Oh.
So now I'm wondering in what ways is Talia Jesus? And then she becomes immortal with the hunters.
Well, and then that makes my brain want to go to are all children of the big three automatically in some way Jesus?
In some way Jesus.
So how is Nico Jesus? How is Bianca
Nico
Jesus?
And Bianca. Fascinating.
Are all children of the big three just...
Well, maybe we'll take them one at a time. We'll do those in the next book. But this definitely, especially because also Zeus is the head god, kind of in charge kind of god. It just, I kind of realizing if it doesn't get old, I feel like there's a case for now Talia being Jesus.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think I even wonder if it's something that Chiron even thinks is possible or not, because it wouldn't surprise me if Chiron also isn't even thinking that could be a potential result of getting the fleece and using it to save Talia's tree.
I think it's it's a big mental leap to make.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah.
I'm curious if Kronos, being a bit more, not quite primordial, but old, more ancient, maybe has some sense of the magic in a different way than everybody else involved. Yeah. And if maybe even a god could know that, but they're just not paying attention.
Well,
they should
actually,
be.
I mean, it would make sense because he wants to also, like, he has this plan with Luke to use Luke to get a, like, physical form that he can exist in. And they also would want the fleece for that. That he is already thinking through all of the forms of magic that could allow someone to go from a non-physical corporeal form to a, like, corporeal form. And so it would make sense to me if in all of his, like, how do I make this happen,
that is kind of one of his like obsessions or like key strategy points that he's figuring out. That's really interesting. I think that's something to pay attention to, is like that spirit to embodied being jump that is happening in multiple times in the series. On a totally different note, before we turn this page, I just have to say the adorable thing happening during this very serious conversation is that Tyson is happily making toy boats out of cups and spoons in the lava, and I just, whistling while you work kind of situation, having a great time, but also son of a sea god making toy boats and a builder making toy boats. So I just kind of like love the playfulness, like that spirit that he brings. Yes. Especially in a book that is heavy and difficult and angsty, and Percy's not doing the best either himself or to us, the reader. Yeah. So I thought that extra detail is very, Tyson's just always endearing. He is. And I like that there's the added element of like a son of a sea god making toy boats, and that's like absolutely, it makes sense. It's kind of poetic,
Yeah. And my last thing that I want to add before we move on from all of the dish cleaning is I also want to know, what are those plates and forks and spoons made out of that they can be washed by lava and not completely melt?
Great question.
Is it like the Hephaestus cabin that is crafting like lava-proof dishware? Does Camp Half-Blood have like their own dishware line?
Yeah, forged in fire.
You can clean it, however many degrees Kelvin. And
this chapter has a ton of good subscription box items. Yeah. Which this season I might not have mentioned, but I have a dream to make a Percy Jackson themed subscription box, with the concept being that all the items are from the Oracle's attic, and a lava-proof dishware situation from that box would be really fun. Like a particular item like that. I like that a lot. Maybe a collectible plate or something. But the other thing here is we get a location that's really important in this conversation of the Sea of Monsters, and linking that, which is always fun to find out what the current modern mortal equivalent place is. But I think it's clever to put it in the Bermuda Triangle as this place that has a mythos even outside of Greek mythology in the mortal world, as being mysterious and dangerous and strange things happening. So that is another key piece. We get the Golden Fleece and the Sea of Monsters roll credits kind of situation.
Yes. Yep, exactly. And we end this section off with Percy and Annabeth coming up with their plan of how they can convince Tantalus to give them a quest so they can go find the Golden Fleece, and they agree that telling Tantalus at the campfire in front of the whole camp should mean that the rest of the campers will pressure Tantalus. He can't say no, and he will grant them the quest. And so they
are right about that. But it's not going to turn out the way they want.
No, it will not. And so we cut to the campfire, and we now have a new fun list of additional campfire songs to write.
We do. I was underlining and brainstorming.
Because we've got Down by the Aegean, I am my own great-great-great-great-grandpa. Which is really funny, and This Land is Minos' Land. So we've got some fun stuff to work on.
We've got some fun ones. The second one, do you have any idea what that could possibly mean? Because I don't, I can't wrap my head around what that means. I am my own great-great-great-great-grandpa.
Yeah.
Time travel is real. Like, what does this mean?
I think it's alluding to the incredibly weird and convoluted nature of, like, if you tried to family tree the Greek gods and their children, it's going to get real wonky real fast. And it's going to look, I think, a little tad Game of Thronesy, you know, more than like they'd be comfortable
That's
with.
a good angle. So it's like, I try not to think about how I'm related to everybody, and especially if I have a crush on someone at Camp Half-Blood, I really need to not think about that.
Yes, I feel like that's how I've
That'd be a fun song to write.
Interpreted it. Yes. But and this is also where we I can't remember if we learned this, if we
I know, but I love this. I've always loved this.
That the campfire itself is magical, and how high and intense the blaze is and the color of it indicates the emotions of everyone around it. Not only while they're singing, but just like while they're being around it, because after they've stopped singing, we have a moment where it blazes up when all the campers want this quest to happen. And as of right now, it's only about 5 feet high, and it's the color of lint, which is yikes. Yeah. That's not what you want your campfire to look like.
It's not something I'd want to put a marshmallow in.
No.
It's not something that sounds particularly warm and cozy. It's kind of drab and sad.
Yeah.
Also, Dionysus leaves early. After a few songs, and love this, honestly, that he mutters about how even Pinnacle with Chiron would be more exciting than this. And I was like, oh, he misses Chiron too. Like, he shows his soft side a little bit here, which I kind of like.
Yeah. And when they're all done singing, Tantalus is ready to be like, all right, time to get into announcements. And this is when Percy and Annabeth interrupt to kind of announce basically their discovery of, like, Percy explains his dream and Annabeth helps in, but they explain like how they're going to save the camp with the golden fleece. They know where it is. This is when we learn that Percy has put the puzzle pieces together, that the numbers that the Grey Sisters gave him in the taxi were latitude and longitude coordinates. I love that he's like, I learned about it in social studies.
I know. He's like this was
he became aware of
not
latitude
on the
and
test.
longitude.
This was a different class, and I read one thing for that class, and it was about latitude and longitude. But here's where you really see that Percy and Annabeth do not possibly conceive that anyone else would be sent on this quest, because this is the information Percy could have used as the bargaining chip to go on the quest, and he just gives it away for free, and then he's got nothing left to bargain with to go on this quest.
Well, and it is, I said before we started recording that I went into this chapter and I was like, I'm not going to be mad at Percy, because I was like, I felt like I've spent the past few chapters being frustrated with Percy when it comes to Tyson, and I was like, I went into this chapter and I was like, you know what, I'm going to be compassionate and understanding, and I'm not going to be mad at Percy. And then Percy did some things that made me real mad in this chapter, and one of them included like the fact, like, going into this, it is so clear to me that not only does Percy think like, oh yeah, like, naturally of course the quest is mine, but also that no one else is capable of doing it. Like, that's the thing, and we'll get to what he says about Clarice, which made me lose my mind. But, like, it's the fact that, like, and it's Annabeth, too, like, to be fair in this moment. Both of them are going into this being like, we're the only two people to do it, which I kind of want to be like, okay, so then who's your third? You gotta pick three.
Because Percy does not want to take Tyson, so...
Right. Like, who's your third? Who are you picking? If you're so convinced you are the only ones who can do this successfully, like,
who else
who's
would
your
you
number
take?
3? Grover's not here. You can't. Like, you don't get your natural number 3. So, anyways, that perspective of, in their minds, they're not even going, hey, we have the solve. It doesn't actually, we don't care who does it, but, like, a quest needs to happen.
Well, and here's the thing. I understand them wanting to be the ones to go.
Absolutely, of course.
And I think that the empathy link makes it way more complicated for Percy to not go.
Yes.
And that
totally.
Tantalus is certainly not going to understand that. So I have the same beef about him thinking Clarice can't possibly do it.
Yeah.
But I'm not necessarily as frustrated with him for, like, assuming that he and Annabeth should be the ones to do it.
Yeah.
I then think that it was just really terrible strategy on their part to give away the one thing that they know that nobody else knows.
Right. Or, like, and make the pitch, is in their pitch, you know, like, they're not, like, saying...
Yeah, they're not explaining
like,
why
hey,
they should go.
Right, because they're not going, like... And, you
they're
know,
just
except for Percy does have the moment, he's like, wait, hey, I had the dream. And it's like, make the case like, hey, I'm the son of Poseidon. This is literally to the sea of monsters.
Yeah.
You should want me, like, on your quest. Annabeth has, like, the, you know, like, who knows more about anything than Annabeth at
Annabeth
camp?
has also sworn on the River Styx to Chiron that she will do whatever in her power to protect me. Yeah. So has to come with me, like, Velcro wherever I am, apparently now, because, like, not even the camp is safe. Like, our border patrol's got to be at the same time, and, like, she's got to walk me to my cabin every night. Like, Chiron.
But yeah, I think for me, I think this was the first time I read, like, them talking about it and going into this moment. And I was really thinking about, like, I'm like, yes, like, Percy is incredibly powerful and so is Annabeth. Like, and at the same time, like, they're talking to all other children of gods who all attend a camp to be trained on how to do this. This was the first time that really hit me, that's like this kind of the undertone to this that then switches from undertone to overtone.
Yeah, exactly.
And that really irked me.
Yeah, no, I get that. And also I think all of this is just more like Clarice is actually the main character of this book, because actually, like, what Tantalus is saying isn't wrong. Like, should maybe the person who has been leading camp, like, for a while, maybe she should be the one to take on this quest to receive a prophecy. Like, she's been making sure camp is safe. She fought the bulls. She won the chariot race, however flawed that race was. Like, Tantalus isn't actually using flawed logic. He is, like, anti-Percy in a way that's unfair in general. But, again, Clarice is the main character. I'm sorry. There's just no other way to slice that in this book. And I think that Percy just, like, cannot wrap his brain around that.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And so after Percy and Annabeth finish making their pitch, this is really when, like, the campers are all united and demanding, we need a quest. Tantalus is trying to shut it down, saying, no, it's not necessary. And the campers are just like, they won't hear it. And that's when Tantalus goes, like, fine, you want a quest? I'll give you children a quest. And this is when he, you know, like, to your point of, I think it makes complete sense as to why, outside of Tantalus doing it, I think, kind of purely for he hates Percy, like, Clarice, it does make sense for all that she's done for camp, like you were saying, for her to be chosen as the one to lead it, right? And to get to select the other two people who will go with her and all of that. And it makes sense.
Percy, like, all the points everyone's making are just, like, valid, even though Percy doesn't like them. Like, Percy did go on a quest last year. Yep. And that was a quest that was specific to him. And that was the first quest in a really, really long time. So no one's been able to be questing.
Yes.
And, you know, so, like, it is more fair if a different person gets to take on a quest this year, because it's not like they hand them out like candy, you know? Like, it's a rare event.
Yes, yeah. And the other thing is, instead of him then going, okay, Clarice is assigned, let me now be like, hey, Clarice, son of Poseidon, I can really help you out. My best friend Grover, like, please take me. Instead of switching to, like, great, she's the leader of this, let me try and convince her, like, please let me be one of your people. It's my best friend.
Yeah, he doesn't even try.
I have a particular set of skills. But yeah, he doesn't even try. He just immediately gives up. And obviously, like, with the history with Clarice, like the bullying from the last book, and their generally very antagonistic relationship, it makes him not immediately having that flip make sense. And at the same time, it's like he did have an opportunity to go, okay, the better play here is for me to try to now get on Clarice's side so I can be one of her people on the quest, rather than going, but the dream came to me.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, you know, then the campers are also taking sides. The fire is sort of like swelling. Aries is obviously, the cabin is excited and chanting Clarice's name, and some people are for and against this, and Clarice says explicitly, I accept the quest, and Percy's like immediately arguing about Grover being his friend. But then I love that she specifically says, then I accept the quest. I, Clarice, daughter of Ares, will save the camp, because you have to list that you're daughter of Ares. That's just how you say your name in these books. But also the other layer that I was kind of saying earlier, Clarice's whole focus for weeks and months at this point has been to save the camp. Like, this is actually a natural extension of every action she has taken and the way that she has stepped into leadership. So it's like a through line in her arc that does actually make sense to be a quest that she would then go on as a natural evolution of what she's already been doing.
Yes, exactly. I completely agree, because she has been the one leading, protecting camp. Like, it's absolutely okay that Percy went to live with his mom and Annabeth went to try again with her dad. And what that meant was that they were not there at camp, and so they came in like a couple of days ago. They arrived last week to this problem that has existed for a while now, and that
she's been working on and set up systems about and fought long and hard for.
Yes. So it makes complete sense that she would be able to see it to its conclusion and complete what she has been trying to do for a while now, which is save the camp.
Right. And the thing that happens with all of this arguing is that Tantalus decides that it's time to be really spooky scary, to get everyone to stop yelling at each other. And he's going to tell them a ghost story. And he specifically has an evil aura radiating as strong as any monster Percy has ever faced, which I think is, he gets such good visual descriptors we've talked about before, like having a shattered, visage. But yeah, I think this is like another one. So he tells his own story and how he used to be a king. He doesn't say it's him, but like we know it's him by the end. And the first thing he tries to do, because he was allowed to feast on Mount Olympus, is take some ambrosia in a little doggy bag, and the gods ban him from the halls forever. And so in retribution to them and to his children, who he just says are horrible children, he doesn't really give the details of what a child could do that would warrant this kind of horrific punishment. And is using the Camp Afflid kids as an example, so I'm thinking maybe not enough here. Not that anything could be enough, but you know what I mean? Yeah. So he tells about how he invited the Olympians to his palace. The children are missing. And guess who is in the stew served to the gods? And that the gods punished him in his afterlife. But he has absolutely negative amounts of remorse, because he literally calls the feeling that he had of what he had done satisfaction, and that the children never spoke back to him or questioned his authority. And he says, rumor has it,
anymore
because they weren't there too. Rumor has it that the king's spirit now dwells at this very camp, waiting for a chance to take revenge on ungrateful, rebellious children. And I'm just like, do you think that they don't know it's you? Or are you how
to me this felt like almost him being like, I need to remind these children how evil I am, because they have talked back to me and they clearly have forgotten that they need to be terrified of me. And so I'm going to tell this story knowing that everyone is putting the very obvious 2 + 2 together and equaling, Right. That's that Tantalus from that story who did that thing.
Yeah.
And we're now, it's like that sobering, like he wants to make all the kids go, okay, we can't say anything anymore, and we have to be silent and obedient. Otherwise he'll do the same thing all over again.
Well, and we're not told, but I'm very curious to know what color and size the fire is by the end of this ghost story, because I feel like it could be back to where it was at the beginning of the chapter.
Yeah. And the other thing that I like at the end of this is Tantalus, after finishing the story, is like, tells Clarice to go talk to the Oracle, and she's shifting uncomfortably. And I like that even through all of this, Percy is able to see that, like, Clarice knows that Tantalus is not an ally. Tantalus is not someone that she is, like, wanting to have proximity to, but it is like Clarice really is in her strategy brain of like, there is a problem to solve, there's a thing to address, we need to fix this, and so I'm going to work about within
camp too.
Yes, and I'm going to like work within the parameters that I have to do this to the best of my ability, and so I liked that Percy was able to see that and recognize like Clarice isn't just like, trying to get as close to power, she's trying to save camp and do it how she can.
And it reminds me of, like, there's been a couple times so far, even at the end of the chariot races, and where Percy can see that Clarice is not, like you said, just power hungry, is not disregarding what's happening, or like she's really truly cares about the other campers and about camp and about her home, and isn't intentionally trying to get into Tantalus's good graces. And here she's quite uncomfortable having been put in that position. But she bows awkwardly and goes to the big house. And at that point, Tantalus has successfully caused Percy to not talk back anymore. And then he adds that no one is able to leave camp without his permission. And then here we get a Hermione Granger-esque kind of statement. Anyone who tries will, if they survive the attempt, they will be expelled forever, but it won't come to that. So it really reminded me of like, will be killed expelled. Or worse, expelled. Because I don't feel like expulsion comes up as much in Camp Half-Blood, or maybe ever again. No. Like it's not. I remember listening to through the Gryffindor, the Super Carlin Brothers podcast that sparked the idea for this podcast. It was the first time I really like noticed when they were pointing it out how many times the kids are afraid of being expelled. It's like constant, even though like Harry is obviously Dumbledore's favorite student, and like it's but that's like the deep fear for at least the first 3 books. But there's not really an equivalent usually here at Camp Half-Blood, so it's interesting, and it makes me wonder if like, is Tantalus inventing the concept of expulsion at Camp Half-Blood, or does that actually exist? Like, are there rules to follow? Because usually it's like you get eaten by the harpies or something, right? Like, usually it is death that you're being threatened with.
Yeah, to me it did always feel more like an invention, that Tantalus was like, I have this power and this authority now, and so like I can threaten this thing because it does, like, there is summer camp, they're not a school, like it does feel like expulsion doesn't feel like it appropriately fits the
the context or like the setting quite and also I have to say, it's like there's this creepy thing that he does when he's like not being mean or telling ghost stories. He uses like really weirdly affectionate language that you can tell is really disingenuous. Like, good night, my dear campers, sleep well. And like, he calls Clarice my dear when he tells her to go to the Oracle. And I feel like that's one of those things that can come off like extra like creepy and sinister when someone who's like very obviously evil uses like affectionate terms of endearment. It's like, ugh. So that's like chilling. A specific thing he does. Yes,
it's like that's the word that I feel like really comes up for me a lot with him, is that he's just a chilling, like
totally
evil character.
I think that's a good word for him. Yeah, I feel like he probably would literally feel cold if you got close to him. Yeah, like is the aura. Also, he never eats, so I don't know how he generates heat. So probably he is chilled all the time. So this is another one where we kind of have three chunks again. This is one of those three chunk chapters that we've encountered before. And that is chunk 1, where we get from KP to Clarice has a quest, and Percy is frustrated with that.
Yeah. So now we move to we're like in the evening, and the first part of the evening is Percy and Tyson in the cabin together. And this is where I start to lose it a little bit with Percy. I was trying hard not to get frustrated with him in this chapter, because I felt like I had just been getting frustrated with him for a lot of chapters in a row, like kind of since the beginning of this book. But that's also kind of what this book is.
Yeah,
so
it is.
Apologies to people who don't like my frustration if you don't like it, but it's here, it exists, and it's gonna keep on
valid
existing.
Emotion. Yeah. Listen, we can't have a growth arc if we don't have a place to grow from. Yeah. And so Percy needs to be in a place that is frustrating.
Yeah.
So that this relationship can have growth and he can have growth, because it will become something so beautiful. So this is the messy beginning that is also a reality in life a lot of the time. And like sometimes when we're not patient through messy beginnings or messy middles, it actually means we don't get to the beautiful later bits. And so this actually, if I was going to like take a step back in a bigger picture of like what this means about life, though Hermes tells us we don't always have to do that with stories in this very chapter, I think it's like there's something about sticking with something that even if it's difficult, because something beautiful can come out of it if you can work through stuff. So we get to like have our own journey with that with Percy in this book.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. But we find Percy and Tyson together back in the cabin. Tyson is working on he's got pieces of metal and springs and gears and little wires, and we know that this will eventually be the incredible watch that he gives Percy, but as of right now Percy doesn't know that. And the reader, it's not kind of told to the reader what Tyson is working on, just that he's working on something. And they have this conversation that starts with Tyson kind of like, Tyson really is the one that like kicks it off, because he can tell that Percy's sad and that Percy wants to go anyway on this quest, and Tyson like offers his help and Percy's like, no, like it's too dangerous.
Which like after everything, I'm sorry, just the thing about that is like we keep saying Tyson keeps like proving himself in dangerous situations. He can stick his hands in lava barehanded.
I know.
But a quest is too dangerous. Like, come on, Percy. Yeah. Look with your eyes, not with your preconceptions.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. That's all. Keep going.
And Percy does ask Tyson what he's building, and Tyson doesn't answer, and instead addresses the fact that Annabeth doesn't like Cyclops. Doesn't like him. And Percy really doesn't do anything he lies. He half-hearted. Yeah. But like he doesn't lie well. He half-heartedly says, no, that's not it. Annabeth likes you. And I just want to be like, hey man, Tyson has been like 6 inches to a foot away from Annabeth every time she called him a monster, said mean and cruel things. Tyson was literally standing next to her. Like, I'm so sorry, but
just that underlying feeling you can get from someone that's unspoken. But I just wrote, lying doesn't help Percy. Like, it never helps to lie to someone, especially about something like this. Like, you can be like, yeah, I'm not sure, but I think, because he's got inklings. And Tyson doesn't just say she doesn't like me. He says she doesn't like Cyclopes. Like, Tyson is showing a deeper understanding of the situation than Percy is even engaging with right now. Yep. And Percy could just honestly be like, I think you're right, but I don't know why, and I don't actually think it's about you. And that would not be a lie, because there's no reason for it to be about Tyson. But here, Percy just decides to straight up lie. And, it's always because he's, like, uncomfortable and he doesn't know what to say. Yeah. And he, like, has his own mixed feelings and issues. But I was just like, don't lie, man. Like, that's just not helping the situation.
Like, point blank, don't lie. But also, the thing that just really got me in this read is I'm like, you were again, I can't let go of this. Of, like, all of the conversations where Tyson has literally been standing there, hearing Annabeth say all of these mean things.
It's almost
about
like
him.
Gaslighting at that point.
Yes,
to be like,
and I'm just like, the only way where I would maybe accept Percy lying in this situation is if Tyson had literally not been around every time Annabeth had said something, and it had just been the vibe, and Percy was kind of like, no, and trying and lying really well and trying to be like, maybe we can mend it that way. I'd maybe give him that of like, sure, you thought that was the best move because Tyson doesn't know for sure. Tyson literally knows.
It's like disregarding his own experience.
And like forgetting, it feels like Percy's forgetting that Tyson has been there present at all of those conversations.
Which he is. That's what he does, is he forgets that he doesn't give Tyson credit for being like a fully engaged like individual in the world who can see and hear and understand things. And I just think that Tyson gives him an out and gives him an easy, like, serves him up an easy way to engage with it by saying she doesn't like Cyclopes. And I think it's actually incredibly mature of Tyson to be able to say that and not just take it personally. Like, I just think it's amazing. And then interestingly, I think Percy's starting to like get an inkling of how off he is about Tyson, because in the next sentence after he lies, he starts to remember that Grover, like all satyrs, can read human emotions, and he wonders if Cyclopes have the same ability. And so I think he's starting to like get that inkling of how wrong he is about Tyson.
An inkling, but what made me sorry, I apologize. I'm frustrated with Percy in this chapter. But what again just made me mad about that was I was like, it's not actually an inkling. Again, Tyson has been there. This is not Tyson picking up on vibes and being an incredible emotion reader. This is Tyson literally, like, he can do that. Tyson can catch the vibe, he can know what's what, but also he has literally been standing there. He's literally overheard pretty much 99% of what Annabeth has said about him, because he's been standing right next to her every time.
The whole
literally
time.
every time.
The three of them have basically been
present
together.
And accounted for. Attendance record says yes, Tyson was there. And so it's just like that also, like, I do think it is Percy starting to realize, but it also just for me, I was like, the fact that he's having to be like, maybe it's some special magical ability, and I'm like, no, dude, it's not. He's just a competent
listening with
being.
Ears to words that are being said and extrapolating correct meaning from things heard with ears. Yeah, absolutely. And then Tyson turns around in the bed, and Percy sees those scars on his back and wonders again how he's gotten hurt. And I think there's also, like, I don't know, I think Percy in general, part of, we've talked about this, I think, but, like, part of not treating Tyson as an equal is also not really dealing with some of the ways in which Tyson has been hurt, right? And, like, helping him or in a genuine, like, friend way, or, like, asking him more about it. And this is super interesting. I think it's interesting we get this in this section because it's so different. The tone of this next part is so different from the rest of the chapter. But Tyson says, Daddy always cared for me, and he's crying. Now I think he was mean to have a Cyclops boy. I should not have been born. I just wanted to read that out loud because I think it's like such impactful emotion, and it says so much inside of that, from like his experience before and like how he felt about Poseidon to how he feels now, and like how ostracized he feels now, and like I really think Percy not fully accepting him is also a big part of that. Like, there's no one at camp that truly accepts him for who he is and cares about him and like wants him around.
And it's like I'd argue that probably the only person who's doing that is Beckendorf. And
True, that's true. I think
sure
Beckendorf is, yes.
I think Beckendorf is doing that, but I also think like when we get to know Beckendorf more, like he is this very like warm, caring, kind person.
Yeah.
And I also think probably initially the initial connection was just we are both mechanists, like, builders.
Yes,
you know,
totally.
like we both have this ability.
There may
and
not
so
be as much emotional connection yet. We don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. That it feels to me like that's a relationship based more on like skill and there is respect in being able like Beckendorf being able to be like, I see you.
He doesn't underestimate Tyson, which is important. Yeah.
But he, as far as we know at this point, is not necessarily like Tyson's friend in the way that like for Tyson, Percy is his friend and his friend is not accepting him. Yeah.
And standing up for him and And then Percy has a really interesting mixture of reactions. Yeah. His first verbal reaction is sort of that like knee-jerk, I feel guilty and uncomfortable type of response, where he's just like, don't talk that way. Poseidon claimed you, didn't he? So he must care about you a lot. There's so many ellipses here too. It's like dot 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 all over the place. Like he's not confidently saying this. No. And then he's like also thinking to Tyson living in the refrigerator box on the streets of New York and feeling like that means Poseidon couldn't have cared for him. Right. So it's like the thing that you would do here is to ask Tyson what he means by Poseidon having cared for him. Like instead of just going into your own preconceived notions about what it means that Tyson was living homeless in New York, like asking what he means by that, assuming that there is something Tyson is pulling from that is a true reality to him. And Percy's not doing that.
Yes, and Percy's not tying that in with realizing that Tyson knew who his father was before Poseidon claimed him. Yes! Which means Tyson knew the name Poseidon, had awareness of Poseidon is daddy. Like Tyson knew that. Like, Percy had not even that wasn't even a thought in the wind, even far away from Percy. Yeah. And Percy, like, it's another moment where Percy really just can't, it's like, he cannot actually, like, take in and, like, process and, like, digest what Tyson is saying. It's like he has to filter it through, like, what he will allow to, like, be the reality and make sense for him. Yes. And I think because, like, again, and he calls Tyson a monster, again, saying that even if his kid was a monster, I think it, and this is me like reading between the lines, but I feel that like part of the reason why Percy, I don't think, can't ask like, hey, what do you mean by daddy always cared for me? And it seems like you knew that Poseidon was your dad. I don't think Percy can reconcile Tyson being a monster knew who his father was. Yeah. I'm not a monster. I didn't know who my dad was. And I didn't meet him until last year because he kind of had to meet me. He was kind of forced into the situation. Yeah. Like, I don't think Percy can reconcile he's, like, that.
Jealous. I think he's very jealous of Tyson for that. But then I think that's confusing for him because of all his preconceived notions. The word filter was coming to mind for me too, or even like a lens of glasses that's like a color that you just like can't undo and unsee. And so, yes, in his own mind, he calls Tyson a monster. And then the next thing he says out loud that is Tyson, again, ... Camp will be a good home for you. The others will get used to you. I promise. And I think that it's so revealing. It's so revealing because that's, first of all, implying that what Percy is to Tyson is used to him, which is not a compliment, not a good thing, not a standard of friendship. And second of all, that's like the best outcome that could happen, or a good outcome, that people would be used to you.
Yes. Essentially, like, just kind of, like, barely tolerating your existence.
Yes.
Yeah. So, I circled...
We do not approve this message.
I, like, circled monster, and I circled used to, because I was like, Percy, come on, my guy. Like, this language is so revealing. Both what he says internally and what he says out loud. The stuff that goes from brain to
it's both.
mouth and
It's
out
like a
into the
sandwich.
world.
It's like an out loud that's not great, in the brain that's not great, and then out loud that's not great again.
Yeah.
And this is like not Percy's best 2 pages, because we go straight from there to Percy asking himself the question, theoretical question, could Clarice save Half-Blood Hill?
I can't.
I thought...
I can't.
That's why I'll say it for you. I thought the odds were better of me getting a Best Camper award from Tantalus. Which is just rude. Like, listen, I think it's important, which you said earlier, to acknowledge that Clarice has been a true bully to Percy in the past.
Yes.
That is a real thing.
Yeah.
That is not okay. And Percy is valid to have feelings about that. That's not really happened this year. Clarice has shown some true character growth and leadership this year, and competency. That means that he's wrong.
Yes, well, and also there is a difference between internally in one's brain going, man, I am really mad that the person who bullied me last year is going on the quest that I suggested. That's really upsetting. That feels really hurtful. I really don't like that that's happening.
Yes,
there's a difference between that. Yeah. Yes, and then going, daughter of the war god is incapable of saving camp. Incredibly competent, been here for years longer than I have, trained for years longer than I have,
has already been saving camp,
has already been protecting camp, is somehow fundamentally incapable of successfully completing a quest.
Yeah.
Nah, dude. Nah,
also, like, there is, when you've like been around a place for a while, and then someone new comes along, and you're like, you haven't been here. That feeling you can get? I'm just like, there is this element that's not totally unjustified, that like, Percy just like shows up to this camp last year, gets a quest, is a hero, does all these things, saves the world. Yeah. And then like, it just makes him think that he should get to do everything, when like this camp has been there way before him. It'll be there way long after him. And he's not the only demigod or hero at this place.
No. And I just gotta say, what for me feels like the elephant of the room, this feels like straight up sexism.
For sure.
Because I doubt that Percy would, if it were a son of Ares, or if Tantalus had favored Beckendorf, or another guy at camp, I think Percy would have just been angry and upset, but he wouldn't be fundamentally questioning the capability, the possibility that they could complete the quest. Like with someone who is as equally capable as Clarice is. Because Clarice is capable. Yes, she's a bully, and she is objectively capable of completing this quest. And that really look, I love Percy as a character, and you can love characters who, like we've talked about a lot, are complicated and do things and say things that you don't agree with. And this is my, where Percy really pushes me to the edge of, it's getting really hard for you to be on your team right now, guy. It's getting real hard.
Yeah. Totally. No, I agree. I think that the sexism is definitely a huge layer here. And in general, all of Percy's isms are on full display in this book, so it kind of makes sense that we're getting multiple angles of that for Percy here. So we'll put a little wrap and deep breath for us and everyone else around the Percy is frustrating, because it's valid feelings, and also now we've done that section, because that's our middle section. We're getting to the third section of this chapter, where I think there's kind of a fun sequence of events that happens here, in my opinion, that I just want to trace real quick. So remembering, keeping in mind that we end the Lightning Thief with Luke bribing Percy to go into the forest with Coke, and then they drink Cokes together. Now what we have is Percy, because he's been around for a year, so he knows what's what, having bribed the Hermes cabin to get him some Cokes from the nearest convenience store. So Hermes' cabin gives him the Cokes, which he last drank with with a son of Hermes in the woods, which he now is going to go to the beach to drink with Luke's dad, actual Hermes, the father of the people who gave him the Cokes. And it's just this, I was just like tracing that, and I was like, it's just this fun, like all roads lead back to Hermes in this section.
Yes, no, absolutely. It is really fun. And this interaction between Percy and Hermes is like really quite long. Yes. Like it's a really extended, they have a full,
surprisingly,
like multi-page conversation. Yeah, and it's funny because at first, like, Hermes walks up, and the description of him is that he's wearing nylon running shorts and a New York City Marathon t-shirt, and he's got salt and pepper hair and a sly smile. But Percy doesn't immediately know who he is, and so they have, like, Percy's kind of unsure because Hermes has to join him, and Percy has a moment of, like, stranger danger. I don't think I should be, like... Talking.
You're like, oh yeah, he's like 13, right? You know, like you kind of get that like reminder that Percy's a child, which, you know, when it's always good for us to remember when we're so frustrated at him too.
But so we there's this whole portion of the interaction before like Hermes actually like introduces himself, where we get lots of fun little like kind of nods to the fact that this actually might be Hermes, including like the phone having the two snakes on it, and him and Percy and Hermes talking about on the phone a fun kind of reference to Prometheus, and the packages have a tracking number, and it doesn't like it gets to humanity or humankind.
I don't care if he is chained to rocks with vultures pecking at his liver.
Yes. And then we learned that Eris is in customer service, and Eris is the goddess of strife and discord, so that felt really funny to
that is hilarious.
Eris is like the customer service
kind of a nod to like frustrating customer service experiences, probably.
Yes, it felt like that. And then we learned that the snakes are George and Martha, and they talk, and we can hear them.
Love George and Martha. I like can't even describe how much I love George and Martha. And as we get into this last part of the chapter, I really appreciate that this gives us like some comic relief from the seriousness and intensity of the rest of the chapter. Like it kind of gives us a break to breathe, because we've been going nonstop a lot of the time in this book. And even when we're not having action scenes, we're having these really frustrating, intense, like emotional scenes. And George and Martha and Hermes just give us some like pure comedy gold. And I just really appreciate that about them.
Yeah. Also, they're just such a fun trio. Like George and Martha are such a fun duo. And then them with Hermes, it's like you're hanging out with like the best of old friends. And you don't feel excluded, but you know they have their own things, but you get to just kind of be there, and you're like, man, this is fun. This is nice.
Interestingly too, I think I don't know how this plays into anything else, but I do think it's really interesting that while Hermes is speaking out loud to Percy, George and Martha's voices appear in his head, and I'm assuming also in Hermes's head. So that just feels like an interesting component of magic, and normally Percy can only do that with horse, like equine creatures. So I think it's like an interesting magic that the snakes have here.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And I do also want to say that I love that Hermes, you know, the god who's like always on the go, has like two companions, you know, all the time. Like, I'm just like, that's nice. You're always on the go. You always have company though as well, and that's I like that for Hermes
and George and Martha. Like, I don't know what made Rick Riordan want to like reference our original like president and first lady here, but like, has that not been a thought for you?
No.
Is this new? Okay, well that's George and Martha that I would be referencing in my head. So I don't know like what made him reference that, and I doubt that we're thinking George Washington is a son of Hermes, and I don't remember if we already referenced who his godly parent is, because we've referenced some Revolutionary War lineage stuff previously. I can't remember, but it has always felt so like, I don't know, fully random, but just like funny and a little bit random to me if we're referencing, the first president and first lady.
Now we gotta know. Was that a reference?
I love that you hadn't. It has
Not
to be.
Once. Never once.
That's so funny.
Whoa.
I don't know how it could not be. Personally. Unless it was
I just
really,
thought,
really
like, hey, those are fun.
Subconscious.
Like, such plain names for, like, the snakes. That they felt fun, that they were so, like...
I'm pretty sure, given all the intentional references in the books, that it has to be. Yeah. Okay, well, you can have that layer in your head as we're revisiting this passage.
That they're actually George and Martha Washington.
Oh my god, what if they're like actually George and Martha Washington? Like their spirits are in the snakes, yeah. Because George is like, I do all the real work.
It's like, wait, you know what would be really funny is if over time, if like you get that gig for a few centuries and then Hermes is like, all right, I'll take a new...
Kind of like the Oracle.
What if like way down the line, he's like, I'll take the Obamas. Let me have Barack and Michelle accompany me. Like,
I could see that. It has to be like truly worthy people. Well, and like going back in time, like could it have been a particular king?
Sure.
And,
right.
Or other.
It's
kind
always
of leader,
it has to be like a political like power couple.
Exactly.
Who
like
he kind of vibes with.
Exactly.
And they just get to like hang with Hermes and these snakes for a couple centuries before Hermes goes like, all right, you can go back to wherever you were and in the underworld.
You can go to the underworld. Yeah. So
yeah. And as part of this conversation, we get this interesting tidbit where we learn that Percy's favorite constellation is Hercules, and that he likes Hercules because he had rotten luck, even worse than mine, so it makes me feel better. Yeah. And it is an interesting, like, because Hermes even points out, like, not that he's strong and famous, all the other things that you might think are, like, the main hero. So that is an insight into Percy. Yeah.
Though I'm wondering, like, which version of Hercules he's been told, because...
Totally, yes.
My understanding is that Hercules had a lot more agency than is being portrayed here in the bad things that happened.
And mostly the bad things were... It wasn't so much a series of rotten luck as it was, like, Hera being, like...
Yeah. Which that's, Hera's gonna do a number on Percy too, so I suppose there's that there. But yeah, I was like, that's part of the story.
It's like he's watched like the Disney movie.
Yeah, I was like, there's some sort of sanitized version that he's pulling from here. Yeah. But yes, it is. It's more so like he empathizes with the struggle of the hero rather than the accolades of the hero. So
but then also the perspective that it's saying it makes me feel better, like. Hercules having worse luck than Percy does.
Right.
It's like
at least it's not like that.
Yeah, it's like him going, "Hey, he had it worse than me, so okay, I'll take it." Like, I'll kind of take my lot in life. Like,
Percy, at one of his schools met a counselor who made him do like a gratitude journal. And so he's got the ability to like think about the ways in which he has it better than he could have it. And this is part of how that shows.
One of the teachers, do you remember back in like, I want to say it was like maybe 2015 or before, where everyone was like, it was like people were being like, oh, privilege is a thing to understand. And that one video of the teacher having all the students line up to run a race and being like, take a step forward to be like, if your parents are still married, or if you had, like, doing all of that kind of stuff. Video.
Yes.
I think like one of Percy's teachers.
Maybe he did that.
And it made him go, oh, okay, it's kind of a mixed bag for me. But
right. I'm not at the front of the pack, but I'm not at the back of the pack either.
Right.
Yeah. Yes.
And so then we get the moment where Hermes reveals himself, not by changing his form, but by changing the phone and George and Martha into the staff. Which is that word I never know how to pronounce correctly. The
Yeah. Caduceus.
Caduceus. Okay, great.
I'm pretty sure it's Caduceus, but yeah. I always really like learning your pronunciations. Yeah, we should make a list.
Look, I'm trying my best.
You're doing great. I do also like that that A for effort. That Hermes absolutely ghosts Demeter. Like
I know,
another god who's like his aunt.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to the family tree nonsense.
Yeah.
Is online too, and he's like, not now, tell her to leave a message. And that the last time that he put off Demeter, all the flowers in the floral delivery division wilted. I think that's really funny. Yeah.
No, I love this whole interaction is littered with all of these fun little like tidbits and Easter egg and like stuff that Rick Riordan adds to really like there's so many fun details like that.
Yes.
In this chapter. But Percy finally identifies Hermes and first says, "You're Luke's father, Hermes," which does kind of Hermes has a moment of being like, okay, normally not introduced as Luke's father, but okay, god of thieves or god of messengers and travelers, if you want to be nice about it. So and I do think that Percy first thinking of Luke in relation to Hermes, I think makes sense, and I think is also telling of like how in again, like we talked before, how impactful that betrayal was. And then that really coloring Percy's perception of Hermes and like, I think his associations with Hermes and I think some of the assumptions we'll find out as we get into it later on that Percy kind of makes about Hermes. Yeah,
and how Luke lives in Percy's mind rent-free. Like, he's always like right at the forefront, ready to be thought about. Something I think we didn't talk about real quick that relates to Hermes' godly names is that Hermes points out when Percy does say he can hang when he first asks and he doesn't know who he is and shares a Coke with him, that his hospitality does him credit, and that links back to the idea that the Hermes is the god of travelers, and that's why the Hermes cabin is where unclaimed kids go, that they can rest there until they get claimed. So that's like one of our first hints about it, and I think it's like meaningful that Percy does extend that and like Hermes notes it, because it's like we've talked a little bit about what the gods' values are. So like as we're thinking about the different gods' values, I think this is like showing what's really important to Hermes.
Absolutely. Yeah. I totally agree. And then now that Hermes has revealed himself and Percy is identified, okay, this is who you are, that's when they really start getting into like the meat and potatoes of why Hermes decided to take a walk along the beach as well and meet up with Percy. And because, Hermes kind of dives into like basically asking Percy what he's going to do about the quest. And then this is when Hermes kind of, it's funny, we get two like mythological beings like telling their own stories.
In like third person.
Yes, in third person. So Hermes tells the story of how he stole some cattle that belonged to Apollo, but then he invented a lyre and gifted it to Apollo, and Apollo was so enchanted by it that he forgot to be angry about the cattle, and and Percy's kind of like, so what am I supposed to take?
What's the moral of the story?
And Hermes has his moral that he comes to is young people don't always do what they're told, but if they can pull it off and do something wonderful, sometimes they escape punishment, which I think is a very funny moral.
Like,
and I think
he's not wrong.
To, like this series and this world, and also oftentimes like kind of I think all YA books with a protagonist.
Yeah, I think he's not wrong. Though I think that it's it may or may not be helpful because it relies on pulling off something wonderful, which is not something you can like know, like guarantee is going to happen. But Percy takes from that, you're saying I should go anyway, even without permission. And Hermes doesn't respond verbally, but his eyes twinkle, which, you know, that's a classic, like, unspoken validation in books. And then we get to the title of the chapter of receiving some gifts here. And grossly, the gifts are going to come from inside of our new snake friends. So Hermes gets the first one from Martha, which is a stainless steel canister. And these gifts were where I was like, oh, I would love to make these to put in a subscription box.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I can see them. I like want these to be real. So
I need them on my bookshelf.
Yeah, let's get there together, everybody, because I really want to make this happen. So a stainless steel canister, an old-fashioned lunchbox thermos with a black plastic top. The sides are enameled with red and yellow ancient Greek scenes, a hero killing a lion, lifting up Cerberus, the three-headed dog, and Percy realizes that's Hercules, who he was just talking about. He's like, how did you know? It's kind of like a magician. You know, is this your card? Like, that's kind of this moment. And Hermes just says, never question a gift, which I was like, depending on who it's from, I think it's okay.
Yeah.
You know, it would have been good to question Ares' gift last book, so I don't know. But then we learn some more backstory. I love the backstory for the items. This is a collector's item from Hercules Busts Heads, the first season, which could be another song we write, is the theme song to the TV show Hercules Busts Heads, because that sounds like an awesome song. And we get confirmation that there used to be more TV like this before Hephaestus TV was all reality programming, which we've been talking a lot about Olympus reality TV throughout the series so far. So confirmation that that's mostly what's happening. And like, has to be how Hermes knows to come here too. Like, one of the things I wrote down at the beginning of this was like, Hermes was watching Camp Half-Blood reality TV to know what happened with Tantalus and the quest. Like, he was tuned in.
Okay, wait, sorry, very much more like serious, like quick tangent off of that.
Yeah.
To the audience, look, a sociology undergrad degree. Yeah. That part of my brain still very much exists. And I was thinking about how this switch from more like written programming to reality programming, I couldn't help but think about in one of my sociology classes, we were talking about the panopticon and the surveillance state and like the change from that. And I was like, what if that change kind of traced like that, like if when there started being like CCTV cameras and like the like video surveillance and the like everyone is viewed and watched, like I think this is actually probably more of like how TV went from all scripted to reality programming, but I do think there is an interesting, like, I think you can see, like, as people started becoming more surveilled, there then started becoming entertainment based on purposefully surveilling people and finding entertainment out of people's lives, and then that, like, impacting
That's really
Olympus.
Interesting.
So anyways, that kind of makes me want to write a much more serious...
Yeah, right.
about this completely made up thing, but yeah.
Well, I mean, I think that your analysis works in the mortal world and in the book world. So I think either way, it's like a really, I'm like, ooh, chills, but like good, interesting analysis.
Anyway,
you know?
That's my little sociology tangent, and
I like it.
And we're back.
No, I like it. I think it's really accurate. But we've been talking so much about Olympus reality TV that like it felt validating and relevant and meaningful that was like referenced here specifically. And then we hear that, of course, the thermos would be worth much more if I had the whole lunchbox. So apparently this thermos came inside of an original lunchbox. And you have to wonder what happened that a god and a god of like mailed items, like packages, can't get the whole lunchbox that this thermos came with.
I feel like it's
how rare is this?
It's either so incredibly rare that only one exists, or Hermes is so burnt out and overworked, and
which we do learn in this chapter is true.
Yes, and basically it's just had like a permanent to do list that includes get the thing, and he just hasn't gotten
and he
to
just like never has time to get the thing. That is a super valid read based on clearly having no work-life balance in this chapter. But yeah, like, how many were made? Who are they made for? Is it just that the gods all had them and so like they're all like really precious about them? And also, can we send someone on a quest to get this lunchbox? You know, like, who would go and what would that be like? So I just have, it brings up good meaty items like this, bring up so many questions. And then it like ties in really interestingly to the Heroes of Olympus series, because we're about to talk about wind, which is like a key component in multiple of those books. But Percy has an interesting intuition. Like, his intuition is back. It's been a little bit offline sometimes in this book so far. Like, he's sort of struggling, but here he has a really interesting read, which I do wonder if it connects to some of the nautical kind of talents that he has. But he first thinks of it as a compass, because there is a really, really cold side and a really, really hot side, and whatever side is facing the ocean, which in this case is north, is always the cold side. We know more later about all the wind gods and sort of like where they live and their kind of stories, so that kind of makes sense that like north would be cold, right? But Hermes explains that it has winds from the four corners, which also, like, well, two things. One is the four corners is a Motown song, I think, so then it makes me think of that. But then the other thing is knowing how much questing it took to like access these wind gods in Heroes of Olympus. This is like a really valuable item. Like,
oh my god, yes.
Like, crazy valuable. But he explains that you want to just unscrew it just a little bit and it'll give you wind power, and he doesn't explain what will happen if you let all the wind out at once, but it doesn't sound like it will be a good thing. It's like one of those ominous,
spoiler alert, we find out.
we do here we don't know yet. And then George,
this is like the Chekhov's gun, but it's Chekhov's lunchbox thermos.
Yes, Chekhov's lunchbox thermos. To be exploded later. That's a very good way to say that. And then the second gift comes out of George, again, kind of gross, and George is complaining that Martha is touching him, and Hermes is like, she's always touching you, you're intertwined. And this is a little plastic bottle filled with chewable vitamins, and this one really makes you think that Hermes has a sense of who all is in the Sea of Monsters and the perils that Percy and team might encounter.
Well, so this then made me have the curiosity about like fate and destiny versus free will, and you know, there's the oracle, so like how much of this is predestined and how much of this is Hermes knowing that like Percy will indeed encounter, it's Circe, right? Yeah, which after having read Madeline Miller's Circe, and I haven't read this book, I don't think, since I've read, I have read this book since I've read Circe. No, I haven't. That's very wrong. I read Circe in like 2019. No, I've reread this book a couple of times. But it is such a different Circe. It's like, anyways, so we'll get to Circe, but like, like, is it predestined that like, it just, I think this is just, it's such an interesting thing, because I do think in Greek mythology there is this sense of like fate and destiny, but then also like heroes choosing to be heroes, and I think there's this interesting conflict between like how much of this is meant to be and would always happen and will always happen versus how much of this is Hermes being like, just in case, here's some multivitamins.
There's also, I think in Greek mythology, like this cyclical nature, and especially in this book. So like there could be somewhere in between predestination and choice, like full autonomy and self-determinism of like the cyclical nature of heroism is somewhere in between that, you know? So it's not so much predestined as it is like destined to be repeated in some way, right? Which doesn't mean it has to be Percy or on this trip, right? You know, we have pieces where the gods know things in some way that our heroes or mortals don't know. I think there's a world where he's just like, there's a more than 50% chance you end up there.
Right.
And there's a more than 50% chance you fall for it. And I'm going to give you these vitamins because that feels like one of the biggest things that could stop your progress. And I really want you to do this so that you can also find Luke and, help my kid. But the other question I have that I don't think we can answer, but that is, I think, interesting is there anywhere else in the Sea of Monsters that you can get turned into something? Because if that's true, then this is sort of like buffering against multiple threats.
Well, and it made me curious about, is this just about you get turned into something? Because Hermes explains that, like, oh, it's got everything you need to feel yourself again. So I'm like, could they have taken these in advance of the sirens?
I was just thinking that, or after the siren, like...
Right, like, what are all of the use cases for these multivitamins? And, like, that could be a fun thing
like,
for us
what
to
happens if Percy gives Annabeth a multivitamin with the sirens?
Because it's a bottle. It's not like he's got 3. You know, it's a bottle of them. And so, I had a similar question of, like, are there other, like, alternate places, but also is it not just about you're physically transformed from, like, human to guinea pig or something else, but, like, is it that just anything that, like,
mentally, your spirit,
yeah,
I think that it makes even more sense as a gift if there are various pitfalls or traps that could this could be a defense against. So that's something we could, like, pay attention for the wording of throughout this, and then also, like, if we're ever diving deep into Greek mythology and we find other things in the Sea of Monsters that would be relevant that Percy just doesn't encounter, like, that could also be a thing. But we get to this place and Percy doesn't exactly know why he's being given this stuff. And he's just like, why are you helping me? Because the other thing that has happened to Percy is that gods have helped him with nefarious purposes in mind. And the son of this god has already shown himself to betray Percy.
Yeah.
And I do think that in this situation, it is really valid to be like, are Hermes' intentions good here?
Absolutely.
And it's good that Percy asked that question, because some of the time, like, that question could save him a lot of grief. Like, that question actually is really, really important. And he gets a melancholy smile from Hermes, and he says, perhaps because I hope that you can save many people on this quest, not just your friend Grover. And Percy realizes that he means Luke. And Percy's response is, you might as well take your gifts back because Luke can't be saved. And so it's also interesting to, like, set the stage for where Percy is in his thinking about Luke in this moment.
And where he will stay. Like, Percy never believes that Luke can be saved until the moment that he sees in that last moment of the 5th book where Luke breaks through Kronos and is the one to make the ultimate sacrifice, is the one of the great prophecy to do that. Like, Percy never believes that Luke can be saved. He never believes that Luke can, like, be turned, no matter how much Annabeth is like, no, I see it, it's there. No matter how, like, Annabeth and Hermes do not give up on Luke. Like, they don't. And it causes, like, tension between Percy and Annabeth. Like, it really makes Percy angry. And it is interesting, I think, to see Percy, like, he had one opinion of Luke. Luke betrayed him, and it immediately went to a different opinion of Luke, and it, like, stayed that way.
Black and white, rigid.
Yes. And thinking. Very, like, like, Percy really struggles with Luke in particular, and it's now making me wonder, like, I mean, we're kind of seeing it with Tyson. Like, Percy, at this point in his journey, really struggles to hold complexity about people.
Well, and Clarice. We're seeing it in a lot of characters. Like, his state of thinking about people is very, very black and white, very rigid. He'll change his opinion once, is what we're learning.
And it's like, he'll change it with, like, proof that he's seen. It's like he saw Luke's betrayal, he changed his opinion. He saw Luke make the ultimate sacrifice, he changed his opinion.
Well, I don't know if that's exactly it, because he is seeing, he's refusing to see other sides of people in this book.
Yes.
So he's refusing to see Clarice and Tyson in any other way. He's willing to change his opinion once. I say that because, like, once, if you've been on his good side and you go on his bad side, like, you can't be back on his good side. So, like, that piece really feels like it's there.
No, that's true. That's true.
What I was thinking is, like, what happens, as you were saying, that Annabeth and Hermes never give up on Luke, and Hermes has a whole speech in here about not giving up on family. I don't know if they win the battle if Hermes and Annabeth give up on Luke. I think that their steadfast belief, kind of like in Star Wars, like Luke believing there's good in Darth Vader, it like holds the key. Mm-hmm. I think that their steadfast belief in Luke is what ultimately, because I don't think Percy changes his mind because Luke kills Kronos. I think Percy is finally able to trust that Luke will make the right choice because Annabeth and Hermes have spent so long not losing faith in him.
Well, and I was thinking that it's like Annabeth and Hermes, and I think really in particular Annabeth, is like Luke's tether, in the way that when Percy goes through the River Styx, like Annabeth is Percy's tether to like stay, like not losing himself in the River Styx and dying and disappearing for forever. It's like Annabeth and Hermes, but I do think mostly Annabeth is Luke's tether to never fully disappearing into Kronos, and always having that, like, he's always able to break through, even if it's for a second, like that happens and Annabeth sees it, and it's like that is what anchors him to before Kronos and to Luke as himself, that human, like, still existing.
And I think Titan's Curse is like a really, really important book for that.
Because
it's so Annabeth heavy in like Annabeth actually getting time to try with Luke and like suffering, and you know, like just the experience,
like having to
Annabeth
literally hold up the world because Luke tricked her into it, and still after all of that she does not lose hope. She still believes,
she doesn't give up on him,
that he can like come back. There's still good in him. He can come back. Exactly.
So it just, I was realizing as you were saying it, how important that faith they have in him and that belief they have in him is for saving the world. Like, that it's not just that Percy isn't the hero, right? But it's that, like, people believing in Luke having good in him, very much like Darth Vader, is what, like, allows him to also be the hero in the end.
And I think this, like, is such, like, Hermes' whole speech about you can't give up on family no matter, like, basically what. Like, you can't give up on family. I, like, reading it, I think it's such a complicated thing. And, like, to your point of, I completely agree that Luke wouldn't have been able to make that choice in the 5th book had Annabeth and Hermes given up on him. That it's, like, it's complicated. Because just reading that chapter, I was like, man, but in real life, like, it's not always the right choice to never give up on family. Like, that isn't actually always what's best. And so it's just, it's complicated, and I think it makes sense for Hermes to believe that, and I think that's very much like, I think the gods have this really intense, like, loyalty is deeply important, and like, you are on our side and not whatever the other side is, I think is very much like the family motto of the gods. So Hermes being so staunchly like, no matter what, like, family is family.
Feel like it feels more important to me that a parental figure feel that way toward their
Totally.
kid.
Yes. Yes.
Like,
Yes.
I
agree.
actually think that's a good thing to like, to not give up on your kids. Like, I think that actually is a good way to think about it. He's making a generalized statement that's not always healthy for everyone, but like,
right.
I think for him in particular, not just as a god, but as the parent here, especially knowing Luke's mortal parent and how she doesn't really even have the capacity to like engage with Luke in that way, have faith in him, support him, believe in him, like Hermes needs to have that. Like, that's important actually. And with Annabeth, I think what's really important is what we don't get to see is the deep impact of the friendship and the traveling and Camp Half-Blood, like before Percy arrives. Yeah. And Annabeth's perception of Luke and reality of Luke at that time, during that time, how many times he must have like helped her, saved her, cleaned up her wounds, like whatever happened on all those times that they were going to Camp Half-Blood with Talia, going through the grief of Talia together. Like, I think that it's not the same as the trope of like, oh, like I can fix him. He's broken. I can fix him. Like, it's not this simplistic, like, I believe he can change. It's, I know the core of this human being, and he is not acting in accordance with the core of who I know him to be, and I can empathize a little bit with why that is, but like, and that's why it's so Vader. Like, I know his core, and I see it inside. It's like the way that if Padme had survived, she would have thought about Vader. Right. And even like, I think Obi-Wan in the Obi-Wan show like has that arc where he like he kind of lets go of it, but he has that feeling because he knew him before he changed. So anyway, I think that's why for these two characters it makes sense that they would be the ones to be those anchors and to hold on to that kernel of goodness.
Well, and I also think it's really interesting because when Talia comes back, like, she doesn't have that same steadfast belief in Luke. She has a different view of Luke than Annabeth does. And she's not in Percy's camp of like, oh, screw Luke, he's the worst. She kind of exists in this middle
she has more nuance,
plane where that I think makes sense for like, she's older than Annabeth. So she was older when all that stuff was happening. And I think she like is able to take more of the perspective of like, this is a 19-year-old making, like, he made choices, and like which I do think it is important to remember that age difference of like, in this book, Annabeth is 13, Luke would be 19, maybe potentially already 20 now. And so that is a very big difference in terms of like brain development and stages of life and like,
100%.
all of
also,
that.
like, the impact of a much older person helping you when you're 7, like when you have had a family of origin that hasn't treated you well, and they're the reason you're on the run by yourself and scared and alone, because Talia and Luke were already traveling together when when they find Annabeth, right? So Annabeth spends time on her own, and then these two older people like take her in, and she loses one of them, and so she's gonna hold on to Luke tighter, and that bond is gonna be just different because like you're just really vulnerable when you're 7. Absolutely. Like, you're really, really young, and this older kid is like caring about you, and I mean, her dagger is from him. Like, there is so many threads connecting them that they can't just be severed. Percy has like one thread. He's like, you seem really cool. Like, I like that you're really cool and you're good at sword fighting and you taught me things. Like, that is not a deep bond to sever. And I think it's easier for him to flip because of that than Annabeth.
And I think why it makes sense for Talia to exist in the middle between Percy and Annabeth is like, Talia was the one who died. She didn't experience the trauma and then the like kind of the relationship that would form from being each other's support systems over like, we lost this person, like our friend in this moment who died to save us. Jesus died for, to save us all and save camp. but like Talia didn't experience that, right? So she just experienced like like the on the run of it all, and Luke already being anti Hermes and already having the resentments, and like hearing that and processing that and understanding the like complexity of it, and like the many layers of it, because she also like knew Luke's mom and had an understanding of that as well, and but then she misses all those years where like I think that dynamic between Annabeth, that relationship was really like solidified. Yeah, and like set into permanent place of like, this isn't something that can be disconnected or like turned off easily. Ever.
Yeah. Well, and the last thing I'll say here is I think being closer in age, at least a little bit closer in age, with Luke and Talia, and having experienced, like you're saying, some of his past, people don't often just like 180 personalities, right? Like, Kronos is bringing out things that already existed in Luke, as you were pointing out. And so if there was any, like either of them between Talia and Annabeth, who was going to see some of Luke's like less favorable qualities or like moments to be frustrated with him, it was going to be Talia, not Annabeth. And so she also probably wouldn't have that same perspective even before they got to camp.
Yes, because I'm remembering, like, I'm vaguely remembering conversations that Percy and Talia have where Talia is, because I think it's in the moments where Percy's really just like, he can't with how much Annabeth, like, won't let go of Luke, and Talia's trying to explain that, like, look, man, like, she was 7, and so, like, when Luke was saying these things, you know, like, that, like, it's not hitting her brain the same way, man, and, like, it's different, and, like, you gotta understand that it's different, and it's nuanced, and it's complicated, totally. And I do think, given, especially with Heroes of Olympus, and we learn even more about Talia's mom, and that, like, her mom then also, like, had, like, a child with Zeus, but then a child with Jupiter, and, like, Talia has had to live in complexity since, like, day one.
Oh, yeah. Like, her brother is given away as a, like, baby. Like, that's...
Yeah.
Terrible, you know? Yeah. And she can certainly empathize with some of Luke's experience with his mom in that way. So, yes, I think, that was a little bit of a tangent, but, like, a really important... I think that paragraph is worth unpacking. That Hermes and you know, Percy isn't, it's not landing with Percy, and that's okay.
Yeah. Because also, like, I don't think at this point Percy sees Luke as family. I don't think Luke is family to him. No. And so I think that's also probably why it's not landing. Because he's like, he's some guy who tried to kill me in the woods. It's not my family.
Well, and you know, he would of course do anything for his mom, but he has mixed feelings about his dad too, especially right now with Tyson. And other than that, he's not had a lot of family. Like,
it's kind of like Annabeth and Grover. It's like his mom, Annabeth and Grover are like his ride or dies. Yeah, they're his family.
Right now, Grover's not even a choice. He's ride or die because there's an empathy link. So there's that. But Hermes says, you know, maybe you'll understand someday. And then he has to go. And this is just, this next part made me tired. Like, it felt too real. So Martha, it tells Hermes that he has 60 calls to return. And George says he has 1,038 emails, just like in the time he was sitting there. And I was just like, my whole body felt tired. Like, that was just like, some of the references in these books, because it's early 2000s, are outdated, but that holds up and makes me just exhausted to read.
It's like, I read it and I was like, God, it's just the truth of, like, you take one vacation day and it's like everyone decides to email you and need that something day for you on, like, the one vacation day you take, and you come back to too many emails. Too many emails. Too many emails.
Yeah, 100%. So I just thought that was funny. And then Hermes has this, like, omniscience about what's happening next. And so he's like, first of all, you have a shorter deadline than you realize to complete your quest. Second of all, you have a shorter deadline than you realize to decide if you're going on this quest. Like, both things are true. And that Annabeth and Tyson are both coming. Hermes has pre-packed for Percy.
Yeah.
With for all of them actually, with 3 waterproof yellow duffel bags. And he says, if you ask nicely, your father should be able to help you reach the ship. And this is like our first reference to the ship. So this is very exciting. And sure enough, a big cruise ship was cutting across Long Island Sound, its white and gold lights glowing against the dark water.
She's like, dang, they are close to camp.
I know. I had that feeling too. I was like, holy moly. I'm like imagining the cannons like getting ready. Yeah. I know. Yeah. They're like at the front door.
Yeah. Yeah. Like they could take out camp right now.
Probably. Yeah. Because the boundary's weak. Like the boundaries could.
They could take out camp right now.
Yeah.
They're right there.
Well, and honestly, that's kind of a clue as to Kronos wants them to go on this quest.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because
they're right there and they're not doing anything.
They're literally right there.
Yeah.
Woof. And so Hermes says goodnight, cousin. So he like, there's a lot of just this like family kind of focused connection like happening here. And may the gods go with you. And I've been referencing Star Wars a lot in this chapter for some reason, but when I read that I did think like, may the force be with you.
You know what's funny? My brain thought of, and may the odds be ever in your favor.
Oh, I see.
Which is a very different vibe.
Very different vibe. Yeah. I think Hermes means it more in the Star Wars
it's
way,
more of a
sure.
may the force.
But that
be
is
with
funny
you,
that we both thought of different other cultural references for that. Martha says, good luck, and George says, bring me back a rat, because we've been going back and forth on wanting to eat
George
rats.
has been very hungry this whole
George
time.
is hungry. Yes, that's his main personality trait that we can tell. And the caduceus changes back into a cell phone, and he jogs off the beach, shimmers and vanishes, and he leaves Percy alone, his friends coming to meet him with a thermos, a bottle of chewable vitamins, and 5 minutes to make an impossible decision.
Yep. And that is where we end this, like, really long, this chapter that was a lot of a chapter.
Meaty chapter.
Yes. Like,
a lot of chapter in this chapter.
Yeah, like, after a series of shorter chapters that were much more, like, singular event focused.
Yeah, and, like, action-packed and,
Yeah. This is we're back into the meaty chapter territory of we have the three parts and
chapter.
A lot happens both emotionally and plot wise
and information giving wise. But I do think that we get so many important, it leaves us with a really good sense of where we're at emotionally. Everything from Tantalus and Clarice to Tyson to Hermes and Luke. I think it really sets the stage for where we're at emotionally with Percy as we're starting the adventure, and giving him some of those items even though he's not on an official quest, because normally that's like why you would get special things. And I think Hermes having this objective of helping Luke and naming that is like, it makes sense as to why. He's helping Percy in this way. But we are getting ready to quest, unofficial quest.
Yes.
And that is quite exciting.
It is. And I was just thinking that, I'll try to remember to keep tally as we go through the books, but I think this interaction with Hermes might be like the one and only time a god is truly like 100% helpful.
And honest.
With named strings attached of like, they're not real strings, but they're like, here, I'd love for you to get my son back from me.
Yeah. That's what I was saying. Honest and helpful.
You. But it's like truly like he's like what he gives Percy is like life-saving.
Absolutely. Both of them. Well, and it's extra funny that this would be the most honest and helpful god, because he's also the god of tricksters. So you would think that would come into play here, but I think that paragraph where he's talking about family and Luke and stuff, I really think that's the heart of his true pure intention of showing up. And that like he knows that there's no way that, like, that's going to be part of Clarice's mission, and, like, she doesn't really have that connection to have in mind, and she's, like, I'm sure Hermes knows enough about Ares to know that Clarice is going to be having a lot of the pressure and stuff from him, and maybe not want to, like, interfere with Ares, to be honest. So yeah, it's really coming from this, like, pure place in his heart, which is unusual for a god. I think you're right.
I know. And I was about to say that, like, I think what's, like, this is our first time experiencing a god really have, like, very straightforward caring feelings towards their child, because, like, with Poseidon it was this, like, you weren't supposed to exist, but hey, you're here, so I care about you, but you weren't supposed to be here, you were kind of a yikes, I messed up, you know, like, whereas we're really experiencing a god be like, I love and care for my child, and I refuse to, like, give up on them, even though they have, like, begun the turn to the dark side. And I think not only in the broader scheme of, like, the larger battle of basically how Kronos, like, you know, convinces demigods to join him because of all the problems demigods have with their parents. I think it also is interesting to start to set up, like, before we've even really learned 100% Luke's view of Hermes, we get Hermes's view of Luke as this kind of, like, seed to plant in the brains of the readers, as, like, Luke has this perspective that came from his own experiences, and just, like, don't forget that, like, Hermes actually really does care. Like, he doesn't get it right, but he does genuinely care.
Are there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to send Percy on this quest with the final message being, like, a pure-hearted, good intention, care for people who are family kind of message. Like, it's an interesting emotional place to send Percy off with. So,
well, especially with all the stuff with Tyson, because Tyson is Percy's family.
I agree.
Who he's been rejecting, and so ending this note on, like, family is family. He's like Fast and the Furious, like, family, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
exactly. Yes.
Like, and so there are just so many layers to why that, I think, is a very poignant,
like,
emotional
theme for the
place
whole
to
book.
end.
Yeah. And way to send him on this quest. Well, I think those are all my thoughts. It's been so many thoughts. I knew it would be a rich discussion because it is a long, complex chapter. But we went places I wasn't even expecting, and I feel like we're, like, back in the meat of analysis, you know.
Yes,
and that's very exciting.
It is.
Any other final thoughts from you?
No, I don't think so. I think I'll just plug, if you're enjoying the podcast, please like, subscribe, rate us.
Yes.
You know, it helps us out a ton.
Comment on the videos.
Yeah, on the podcast platform.
We'll be there. We can chat in the comment section.
Yes. So yeah, that's my last little nugget.
I love it. Well, then, that being said, we will see you all next time for Sea of Monsters, Chapter 8, We Board the Princess Andromeda. Bye.
Bye.